Hey, gorgeous people. I'm Alexandra Blair of Nine Lives Astrology, and this is my Monday morning chat show where we talk about everything happening under the sun through art, archetype, stories, and personal mythologies you're already living before I finish my cup of coffee. Every week, we try to take astrology out of the dry, dusty, cerebral old textbooks and bring it down into your body, into your rituals, into your relationships, and into your real life, which is where it belongs. This week is really rich. It is not particularly chaotic. It is maybe not even totally eventful. It is layered and liminal. And if last week was the quiet and the rest before the shift, this week is that slow turning of the wheel and things coming back online. Let's get into it. One update on the new moon in Taurus. Sarah and I bought these twinning Idola Stellarum talismans and we went ahead and opened them. It is powerful and potent magic that they are selling over at Idola Stellarum. I felt immediately the power of this beautiful talisman, and the synchronicities started flowing in right away. I did a little ritual of attunement, complete with offerings to Apollo and Venus, and really got in touch with the spirit of the talisman itself. It felt so potent and powerful and immediate. And I went ahead and wore it outside and went for a walk immediately after I did my little ritual. It has just been so special. I've never felt so immediate, powerful, special feelings from an object that I've owned before. And this is my first sort of talismanic jewelry that I have purchased. I have made a lot of my own talismanic jewelry. It is very special to receive something that somebody has already baked rather than to sit in the kitchen and bake it yourself. So I purchased this thinking it would be an investment in myself and in my work. And it turns out I was right about that. This is a really incredible and beautiful piece, and I am proud to own it. Before we get into it, let's talk about my favorite comments, DMs, and messages that I received last week. I want to say thank you guys so much for all of your wishes of getting well soon and all of the healing. I really felt all of your support, and I really appreciated it. I've made a astronomical recovery, if you'll allow me a corny pun and some wordplay. I'm feeling so much better, and I really appreciate everyone's kind words. I also really appreciate everyone's astrological recommendations. Definitely check out the comments from last week's show because there were just hundreds of recommendations for other astrologers that people listen to and love. And I can't wait to dig into some of their content, and maybe you'll see some of them here on my channel. Terry 2.0 says, my progressed AC is now in Aries. I have the Sun, Moon, Mercury, Venus, and Neptune all there now. I'm an Aquarian, so I also have Pluto conjuncting my natal sun. I have to have a tricky conversation with my Scorpio sun on May 10th, and I have to admit I'm a bit unsure how it will go. I will use this week to stay present and calm about it and trust that the right words will come when I need them. Wish me luck. Well, Terry, I hope that your conversation with your son went well. And it looks like there's plenty of space this week for stretching out and feeling into what that conversation actually has in store and how it will impact your daily life. Stay tuned for that. Janet Lee 4421 says, hope you didn't have to call in sick to the planets. Well, let me tell you, if I did have to call in sick to the planets, I wasn't aware of that. And now I'm going to have to go and see about keeping my job. So many of you commented such cool, varied, and extensive lists of other astrologers that you love. I have been posting these on my Instagram stories for the last few days, just shouting out the different astrologers that people are loving right now. Thank you guys so much for doing that. So looking at this transit list, we have full moon in Scorpio, Mercury in Taurus squaring Pluto in Aquarius. That's exact on the same day as the full moon. Then throughout the week, a few days later, we have the sun conjoining Uranus at 27 degrees of Taurus. And then we have Mercury in Taurus squaring Mars in Leo. This full moon in Scorpio is by sign, by whole sign aspect, reactivating the Mars, Pluto, Sun fixed T square that developed over the past 2 weeks in April. The moment has passed. That hard edged, discrete transit moment of Mars Pluto opposition and of the Sun and Taurus squaring both, it's passed. But the moon remembers. And because the moon has a wider range of engagement than other planets, she is coming in to hold the echo of that moment. Other planets have a degree of engagement that is closer to 3 degrees or 0 degrees. And what that means is that we consider a conjunction to be exact at 0 degrees and to be applying, coming into a term of engagement around 3 degrees traditionally. The moon, on the other hand, is said to have, in Hellenistic sources, a degree of engagement that is wider than 3 and less than 15. So, somewhere in there, the moon is feeling the echoes and the reverberations of what actually happened with that Mars Pluto opposition squaring the sun back in mid April. The moon is our weaver, and this is why we call her that, because she is holding a wider range of engagement with these planets and pulling them together to tie and weave these narratives as she rolls around the zodiac. She is stitching our felt sense of time together. And the moon, of course, orbits the earth. So when we're talking about something lunar, we're talking about something that's happening here on earth, in our bodies, in our rhythms, in our emotions, and in our sense of the world around us here. So when she moves from Scorpio through Sagittarius, through Capricorn into Aquarius, she is pulling on the thread of everything that has just occurred. And she's starting that sort of formation out there in Scorpio with this full moon, which feels significant and important, and moving into Aquarius to cross over Pluto and weave it in together that way. This is really subtle work. It is important because it is about our memory and it is about our embodied sense of echoes of time that have happened in the past. So, in a very subtle and liminal way, what's happening this week is very connected in to the Mars Pluto that happened. Now, if you had something you were called to do during that Mars Pluto and you didn't handle it, this may be a moment where that really settles in. The weight of that decision settles into your bones. It could also be a time of important shift, not explosive shift, not tectonic plates shifting, something liminally shifting. And the beauty and importance of those liminal spaces is that you have to let yourself sit in it. This has me thinking a lot about the memoir In the Dream House by Carmen Maria Machado and other queer stories of love and other stories of toxic relationship dynamics and abuse. Now, this incredible memoir has all of those things wrapped up into one. And what strikes me about queer stories and about queer love and about a queer existence is that it is so much about standing in liminal spaces, navigating liminal spaces, finding hints and clues, spotting a thread glinting in the liminal expanse and tugging on it and trying to pull clarity out of nothing, trying to weave clarity out of nothingness. Machado's work embodies this in a couple ways. It's in the ambiguity of her relationship with her pastor when she was young, and then also in her subsequent queer relationships as she grows up. Chronologically, she really starts exploring this liminal space in her ambiguous and strange relationship with her pastor when she's growing up and she's young. But then she also experiences it in this abusive relationship that begins so slowly, that really begins in a liminal space of questioning the toxic dynamic and the dream house woman saying, I think maybe I'm like my father when they experience her father's abuse. This is a really brilliant and beautiful book, and I'm not going to spoil it for anyone who hasn't read it. But there is a lot of abuse and power dynamics and toxic relationship dynamics that play out in this book. And they start very subtle, but anyone who's experienced a toxic dynamic like that, it's like just one little movement gives you that sinking feeling in your stomach that something is off. And this week is a little bit about the systems and protocols you have in place to respond to those subliminal and liminal messages. So something is off. What are you going to do about it? Now, it's not explosive. And in fact, bringing something explosive and concrete into a liminal space can often be calling for danger. But Scorpio doesn't really demand clarity. It's asking for honesty and that eagle eye of knowing what's happening, not necessarily summoning up arms right away, but knowing with true clarity what's happening. That's the difference. A lesson we can learn from Machado is that sometimes endings don't need to be conscious uncouplings. Sometimes they're just endings, and it's not pretty and it's not anything to write home about, and it doesn't happen in a storybook way. But knowing how you feel about a situation is incredibly important, which kind of brings me to the second point of reference that I really have for this week, which is this imagery of planting a poison flower. This week seems to carry a specific kind of magic that is potentially quite baneful, but very clarifying. Mercury is squaring Pluto and Mars. The sun is conjoining Uranus. There's tension, there's disruption. It could be extremely productive, but only if we're precise. This is a week for planting a poison flower, the kind of poison that clarifies with a clear purpose, the kind of spell or action or communication that is necessary, even if it is brutal, even if it erupts out of us and lashes out of us like a tentacle from the inky black darkness, whoosh, whipping such a specific place. This is excellent ground for poison path work, especially the kind that doesn't necessarily come from rage, a fiery kind of rage, but rather that scorpionic and Taurian place of deep seeing, deep knowing, deep in your bones, in the earth, all around you. If there's something you've been afraid to name and target and work against, this might be a week to do it. Not necessarily dramatically, but with a deliberation and with a craft. So if you've been waiting to end something or to shift direction or to take a calculated risk or to lash out like that tentacle, do it with clear eyes, not from a place of impulsiveness, but from a place of purpose. Don't forget that we have the Sun, Mercury, and Uranus all in Venus ruled Taurus, and Venus is in Aries, with the moon moving through some of its most difficult spaces in the zodiac this week. From its fall in Scorpio to its detriment in Capricorn, into a conjunction with Pluto in Aquarius, this is maybe a really productive time to shore up any unhelpful emotional cups that are overflowing or spilling or illusions that we have about situations that are going on in our lives. Here's how I'm using this week. I mentioned I am working on something for the full moon in Scorpio. This just feels really significant to me. My Time Lord for the year is Venus, so in some ways it shouldn't, but it really does feel significant with all of this stuff going on in Venus ruled Taurus. I'm also really working with the moon a lot generally right now. So I am going to be planning a symbolic archway that is the full moon in Scorpio. And when I walk out of that archway, I'm going to be a different kind of person. There are definitely going to be some poisonous flowers planted on my way through. There are going to be some grudges that I have to reconcile the bookkeeping on and probably let go of. I'm hoping to get rid of some of the blockers energetically and emotionally that prevent me from being the most authentic version of myself. And because I have Pluto conjunct my MC in mid Scorpio, so definitely within the terms of engagement for this lunation, some of that has to do with the ways that I show up in the world. Being present on social media is frankly disgusting and difficult because it is not a place that encourages authenticity. And yet I am a person who is fiercely authentic, and it is really difficult for me to show up if I can't be my complete self. So I'm using the full moon in Scorpio as a little bit of an energetic threshold to just say, I am moving forward with a fierce sort of authenticity that simply cannot be corrupted by the platforms that be. So my question for you, dear friends, is what are you planting this week? What kind of soil are you planting it into? What will it look like when it sprouts? What does it feel and taste like? Or perhaps it is a poisonous bloom, and you'll have to report back from the theoretical rather than just chomping on it and letting us know. Don't forget, I'm co-teaching a webinar with Sarah Posh about Saturn and Aries. Lots of astrologers are talking about what this transit means for the world, but Sarah and I are really interested in what it means for you and me. We are grounding it in natal astrology specifically, not collective astrology. It's going to be honest. It's going to be really rigorous. It's going to be very visually and artistically stimulating. So you definitely don't want to miss that. Buy a ticket at the link in the description. You can always book a reading with me at ninelivesastrology.com if you've got something knotted up or something that you're trying to weave out of liminal spaces in your life. I'm here for you. You know what that sound means. My coffee is over, and so my show must be over. This week, focus on planting something beautiful, plant something that's true. Sit and breathe in the liminal spaces and see what settles into your bones. I will see you next Monday.